Checking in, checking in. All right, Malaysia International Dive Expo. My name is Nate Porter, coming all the way from Hawaii to talk to you guys. I gotta say, I saw a little sign that says this is the hottest dive expo in all of Malaysia, and I have to agree, there's a lot of beautiful people in the building today. So I'm glad I've come to it. I want to tell you a little bit about me, where I've come from, and how my journey through scuba diving and through sailing has brought me in front of you on stage. Unlike our last presenter, who is an amazing photographer, I am a videographer. I am a YouTuber by nature, so that's what I do. And there's a lot of aspiring YouTubers out there, especially I know like the young kids are always like, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. So I'd love to talk to you guys about that. I want to talk about how my journey through scuba diving started, because I think it's important to know, like, we all started as a little Nemo sprout somewhere and eventually grew up to be big boy scuba divers one day. I remember when I was 14, my first scuba dive was in Mexico, and my dad was out with some friends on his boat, and they had a tiny little fire extinguisher that they had converted into a dive tank, and they slapped it on my back, and they put a rope on my leg, and they pulled me underwater. That was my first scuba dive ever. It was not PADI standards. It wasn't SSI standards. It was no standards. It was quite dangerous. And fast forward a couple years, so I was 17, I finally decided, you know, that experience was a bit traumatic, but I'm ready to take the plunge. So when I was 17, living in Hawaii, I met some guys that lived out of their van, and they were scuba instructors. And I remember thinking that they were the coolest guys that I had ever met. Just surfing all day, scuba diving all day, teaching people what they did. And their impression of me from learning how to scuba dive from them lasted all the way through my years, until finally one day my journey took me to where I wanted to skill up. I wanted to become a scuba instructor. That was many, many years later. If we can go ahead and switch to our video, that would be awesome now. Let's see if we can get that going. So here we go. I hope you guys all added us. YouTuber again, you can find us Expedition Drenched, or if you are Instagrammer, at Expedition Drenched. So add us, give us a comment so I can write back to you guys at some point. And let's click play there. There we are. Ooh, that's a pretty video. So as I was going through my journey through scuba diving, became an instructor. Eventually, I became a master scuba diver trainer through PADI, and I was teaching at university, and I started guiding, and I really loved it. I was very, very passionate about scuba diving and taking people underwater and showing them all the crazy little creatures that are down there. But after years and years of doing that, and I think some dive professionals can understand what I'm saying, is you've done it a lot. You've taught a lot, you've seen it all. And I think a lot of us, after a long, long time in the industry, it does happen to the best of us, where you can get a little bit burnt out from it. I remember that feeling, and usually people's path from that point forward moves either to maybe videography, photography, or being a boat captain. That's always a good one. I decided to go down the path of becoming an underwater videographer, and I love that because it really changed the game for myself, where I, from that point forward, was diving again for myself, but also later on through social media, the power of social media, I was able to share my love of the ocean and all its inhabitants with the world, and that's what I do today. I must admit that when I dive now, I get anxiety if I don't have my camera in front of me, because if I was to see something incredibly rare, if I was to see something that I'd never seen before, and to not have my camera, oh, that anxiety I feel from that. So fast forward many years, my path took me to where I became a captain. I actually bought my first expedition vessel about 4 years ago, and moved on and started living full-time on that vessel. And on that vessel, we had a crew of 12 international people on board. I love having an international crew because, honestly, like, the things that you learn from each other, everything from the way you cook to the way you think, it really is an intoxicating feeling to me. And I've said this many times before, that there are a lot of problems with the ocean. There's a lot of conservation things that need to happen worldwide. And those efforts are going to take not just one person or one country. They're going to take all of humanity and all of its countries combined to answer the call to fix those problems and to come together for it. So I love having an international crew on board for that reason, because I think that that is very relatable to people as a whole, where they watch our show, if you will, and maybe they connect with one of our characters, like, hey, you're from my country. So it's pretty cool. So it is a 23-meter steel catch vessel. It's a sailboat, and it has been sailing around all the way from New Zealand through the South Pacific for many years, and now we've almost circumnavigated Australia. And why am I here in Malaysia? Well, this path has now taken me. We have just gotten our second vessel, and it is actually located in Langkawi. So I've been living in Langkawi for the last 6 months, living on the hard, fixing up that boat. And I hate to say, I hate to admit this, I had not heard of Langkawi before I landed on it. And you know what? I have fallen in love with that little island. It surely slowly has become my home. And I think when I actually sail away from it, I'm gonna actually very much miss it. Everything from the monkeys and the eagles that are there. And so I'm always bragging to people across the world and back home about, if you've never heard of this place, you got to come check it out one day. So, which takes me to my next point. I want to point out that I think most of us here are involved in the dive industry in some way. If you're not just a new diver, maybe you own a dive shop or a company, or you're a dive instructor. I just want to take a moment to have a moment of realization that how lucky we are that we get to call this a job, that we get to actually go into the ocean, see all the cool things underwater, and share it with others. And if you think about it, diving's not even that old. It's only like, 60, 70 years old at best. So to see the evolution of diving, look at all these the new technology that comes out every year. It's becoming more and more accessible to people across the world. And that's my passion, is that I truly believe that as a group, the more people that we can get involved with scuba diving, the more people go underwater, the more naturally they will become in tune with the water, and that they will want to be more conservation mindset. It doesn't take long before you go on a couple dives and you see a little bit of fishing line or a broken reef or a little bit of bleaching, whatever it might be down there, before you say to yourself, hey, we got to turn back the time on this thing. So I think it is very important that each and every one of us continue to promote the ocean to young people, to old people, it doesn't matter. Get them to go underwater and see for themselves. And that's what I get to do. I get to go down with a camera and find those crazy little creatures and videotape them and share them with the world. And I love where this is all going. I don't know if anybody here, it just barely came out, but The Little Mermaid just came out yesterday, 2 days ago. I went and saw it on opening night, not going to lie. Might be a grown man, but I still like children's shows. And what I loved about The Little Mermaid was how many crazy little creatures were in that movie, such as a blanket octopus, a wonderpuss, nudibranchs, feathered sea stars, little obscure creatures that I must say are only in your backyard. You're here in Malaysia and in Indonesia and the Philippines. And I think a lot of people that are going to watch this show are going to watch it and say, I don't think those creatures exist. And I'm so proud to say that they do. And that we should be promoting that all in the Under the Sea song, all those creatures are actually there. And it's important that kids know that those creatures are not just make-believe. It's not, except for the mermaid that we know of. She might still be down there waiting for me, but as far as we know, there's no mermaid. But the other creatures, they all exist, and I think that's pretty cool. And I was watching it, my mind was blown. I was like, wow, because the ocean is magical. It really is by nature. So, and I still think that there's a lot down there that's left to be unexplored, to be explored. I think there's a lot of unknown things down there. It seems like every year a couple new creatures are being discovered, and there's so much more down there, especially outside of the equator, because that's easy diving. If you start going down to the Southern Ocean or the Arctic Oceans, That, my friends, is really where there's a lot to be discovered there still. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a blackwater dive, but a blackwater dive, yeah, you like them, huh? A blackwater dive, we've only been doing that for about 20 years, I believe, and that is like the forefront of discovery is blackwater dives. If you've never heard of it, blackwater dive is when you go off of a boat at night over thousands of meters of water, and you tie a line to yourself, you jump off the boat, and you literally just get dragged through the ocean dangling by a rope at night over thousands of meters of water. It sounds terrifying, right? But there you find little minuscule macro creatures that come across you. They're usually very small, but also they could be very long. A lot of these creatures like connect themselves. But that dive alone, which is brand new to scuba diving, that's where, again, new discoveries are being found every single day. So if you've never tried that, definitely do. Oh, this is beautiful. A lot of this footage is from Australia. So if you ever make your way there, I love Australia diving. This is a sea snake. Beautiful. I like to look behind me every once in a while. These guys, as crazy as they look, like just look at that. A snake that is diving 20, 30 meters underwater and just joining me on a dive. That's crazy to me. You guys have banded sea snakes, the black and white ones. I love them as well. Again, and that's what we do is, I think our role as Expedition Drench, I think they mentioned that we're a U.S. Marine educational nonprofit. We work with other NGOs and other organizations that are doing good for the world, doing good for the planet, and we like to showcase and feature their efforts, what they do. So in a lot of our episodes, we'll be working alongside with one of those programs and really showing the behind the scenes of how they're able to do what they do. And we hope by doing that, it brings more awareness across the world, and also that they can use that to show politicians and stuff in their country to hopefully get more funding in the form of grants and things like that. On our note, we try to shy away from the gloom and the doom of the oceans. We all know that, yes, it's quite possible they're very much in peril, but it's really easy to get hyperfixated on the bad that is happening, and that it can make you feel hopeless at times. So for me, myself, I really try to focus on what is there. What is there, what should be focused on, so that people want to save that and they want to protect that. As simple as we had an episode 2-3 episodes ago. We put one out every single week, and it was about diving in Sydney Harbor. Now, Sydney Harbor, Sydney's the largest city in Australia. It's a massive city. Maybe not compared to Kuala Lumpur, but it's a big city just itself. A lot of people living right there on the waterfront. And what was shocking to me is just jumping in the water right there in Sydney, right at the base of skyscrapers, we were finding seahorse and octopus and like crazy things that I don't think people knew that existed right there on their backyard. And you guys have the same beautiful things right here in your backyard as well. So, and I love doing that because, as I mentioned, we're expedition vessels. So we're just sailing out there, kind of lost, if you will. Like, where are we going tomorrow? Just kind of going wherever the wind might take us. Unlike normal diving, a lot of our diving is exploratory diving. In other words, there's no map. We don't know where we're going. It's like, pretty much I follow topography from either a map or just as I'm going, and I say, oh, well, that looks like it might be a seawall or a cliffside, and we jump in, and you just kind of go with the flow. Where I think a lot of us get stuck in this thing that we need to go to a famous dive site with a name. Well, anything could be a dive site. Just because some guy decided that that's Turtle Town, that doesn't mean anything. So I think try to explore outside your norm. Try to find new dive sites. Maybe you can name it after yourself, your mom, or whatever you might find. But I love exploratory diving. And to me, that's really at the heart of what we do as an organization, is we're just out there ourselves. There's no one out, no one's coming to save us. We're out there off the map. And the feeling that it's possible, it's very possible that we might be the first person to ever dive this dive site, to ever dive this reef. And I can tell you, a lot of times where we are on some far off rock, you can tell when there's like a creature that looks back at you. There's a couple animals that interact with humans more than others. We all know that. And I really do feel that there's a lot of times where I see an animal and I'm like, I'm the first human you've seen, huh? Hey. And I hope I leave them with a good impression. So we're an ocean positive brand. We are plant-based. I'm going to talk about that for a minute. I think that's an important thing. Everybody asks, what are the things that I can do? How can I save the oceans? It's as easy as our choices, from choosing not to get the bag, choosing not to get the plastic cup that they put in a bag and then put in another bag, and just simply letting them know, hey, I don't need the bag in the bag. I think we've come really far in the form of straws in the last couple years. It took one turtle to get a straw in his nose for people to realize, yep, you know what, skip the straw. Let's keep going down that path. Let's keep going down that path and make those inner choices so that we ourselves can be that change that we're wanting to see in the oceans. Because a lot of us here, you know, we're ocean positive people, and people do take note. People take note, and it's as simple as, if you got a dive company, you got a dive boat, choosing the right sunscreen to offer to your customers, letting them know why. Right here in front of me, I've got trash bag right out of Indonesia. I mean, all they've done is they've taken some banners, cut them up, and now you got a bag on your hip where you can just be grabbing fish line and picking up trash. And don't think for a moment that your divers that are following you as you're guiding them, they take notice of that. That's all it takes, guys, is making those little changes, whether that be in your habits, your diet, the car you drive. I think we're on the right path myself. I do. The realities of expedition life. I like to talk about that. So now with living with 12 international people on a boat, as I'm sure you can imagine, you don't have any space to yourself. There's no secrets on a boat. Imagine it for just a moment, if like this is your home, this stage, and you've got 12 people you're tripping over all the time. I love it. I hate it. It's all the things all in one. But the excitement that you feel and the closeness that you can feel in a voyage, let's say that you go off the map for a month. I think the longest I've been without touching land was something like 5 weeks. And as you can imagine, with those 5 weeks and just being surrounded by those 12 people, you get incredibly close. And you do learn a lot from each other. And I think everybody that comes on our crew comes out of it learning a lot and more of a passion for scuba diving. But of course, the moment you touch land, you just want to jump off that boat and not see those same humans for a couple days. So I love what I do. I love travel. I don't know if there's been any photos of the boats or anything behind us thus far. Oh, that's a blackwater dive, by the way. We were talking about that earlier. Little sea creatures at night. But that's what we do. We're just an expedition fleet traveling around. Let's see what else I got on my paper. Cool. All right, guys. So if you guys could all take a moment and make sure to go onto our YouTube and definitely subscribe. That would bring me we're here for another reason. I'm really proud of one of my crew members that I want to point out. We have a crew member, Amy from South Africa, and I was coming to speak at the event, and she submitted her Tasmania documentary, just the video part to it, to the photo and the film competition, and she won. And I'm incredibly proud of her for that, and I want to say that right away. The amount of time and effort that goes into making these weekly episodes is a ton. And so I was so proud of her for doing that. And so if there's anything, I want you guys to maybe watch that Tasmania documentary. That is our last episode out if you add us on YouTube. And I think you're going to learn a lot. I think everybody here has heard of Tasmania Devil. We've all heard of it, but I'm really proud of that 35-minute episode of just how much you can learn about it. And here in Malaysia and in Southeast Asia, I'm so excited to tell those same kind of stories, to trip around every corner. There's so many things that I want to see here that I've never seen before. We all have that bucket list of creatures, right? Mine include a thresher shark and wonderpusses and all the crazy things that you guys see up in this corner of the world. So I'm really excited to be here. And as we come through every one of these countries through Southeast Asia, really excited to connect with a lot of dive companies and ocean positive people. And so if you see us walking around, or if you have any tips or tricks in your little corner of the world, I can't tell you how much it helps to get that local insight so that we know where we should go on our travels. So don't hesitate to reach out. You can find us also on our website, expeditiondrenched.org, drenched like you're wet. And send us a message through that or Instagram and just say, hey, Nate, I remember seeing you, and I think you might be coming through my backyard. You definitely should check out this place. And we got big boats. Maybe you can come join us for a dive or two. So anyway, I want to thank Malaysia International Dive Expo for having me as a speaker today, letting me talk your guys' ear off. And yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and you guys have a beautiful evening.
All right, thank you so much, Nate and 𝐍𝐚𝐭𝐞 𝐏𝐨𝐫𝐭𝐞𝐫Topic.